Greetings everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of All Things Lambda, the Half-Life community show with a whole lot of topics to discuss this week. Seriously, this week was insane with how much Half-Life community news came out. Of course, we won't be able to cover everything because in that case, the video would become way too long. So in case we missed something you would have liked us to mention, be sure to check out our Twitter or Facebook page. We may have covered it over there. Alright, without further ado, let's get started.
LambdaGeneration.
To begin, let's talk about Black Mesa and how not everyone is actually able to play that game. Not everyone's computers are powerful enough to run the fancy new effects that come with this Half-Life 1 remake. It may run on the source engine, but it's pretty heavily modified. This is where Black Mesa Classic comes in. We have talked about this Half-Life mod before. Basically what it does is it puts Black Mesa's textures, geometry, and models into the gold source engine so that everyone can play this version. The reason why I'm covering them now is because earlier this month they released a bunch of new images taken from the We've Got Hostiles chapter of Black Mesa, but then recreated in the gold source engine. It looks pretty incredible for the gold source engine. It shows some upgraded shadow maps, better texture resolutions, and more intricate models than what Gold Source is usually capable of. Now, I'm not sure if this runs on Zash or regular Gold Source, but the improvements are genuinely pretty cool. If you want to see these images for yourself, then be sure to check the description below. It's been a while since we heard anything about the planned movies for Half-Life and Portal from J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot. J.J. Abrams on Monday has once again stated that the movie is in development at Warner Brothers and that a script is being written and that they are really excited about a new pitch and that they hope that the movie is finally on the rails. Now, we've heard news on this over and over again over the past 8 years, and it seems progress on the movie has been pretty slow. Tyler McVicker said it best, that this movie is most definitely in development hell, and so news like this likely means nothing at the end of the day. We prefer to be a little more optimistic than that. After all, the demand for video game movies has increased in recent years due to more successes, and now that J.J. Abrams has finished up work with Star Wars, it's possible his studio's schedule is more open. That being said, the less than stellar performance of The Rise of Skywalker may create entirely new obstacles for getting these movies off the ground. That's not to say they're incapable of doing it. After all, both Super 8 and 10 Cloverfield Lane take heavy inspiration from the Half-Life universe. In fact, some theorize that they're in the same universe, but we won't get into that here. But if those movies can do well, perhaps a Half-Life and Portal movie can too. It is worth noting that it was at the 4K re-release of Super 8 that this week's Portal movie announcement was made. So what do you think? Do you think Abrams is truthful in his statement, or are these movies banished to development hell? A link to the IGN article going over this in greater detail is in the description below, so you can decide for yourself. 2 weeks ago, we covered that the creators behind Half-Life: A Place in the West have announced that Chapter 7 of their amazing comic series is almost complete and almost ready to come out. And this week, guess what? I'm covering that it has officially come out. That's right, you're now able to read Chapter 7 of Half-Life: A Place in the West for only $2 on Steam, which is a steal if you ask me. Seriously, a can of Monster Energy costs about as much over here, so it's totally worth it. So, what happens in this chapter of the story? The city of New Franklin is thrown into a civil war while Cormac Long, Sejal Rajani, and Leonard Banks are fighting over the city's control. Who will eventually control it? Will anyone even control it in the end? You gotta read this chapter for yourself. Of course, I put a link in the description below for the official Steam page. The next chapter is Interlude 7.5 and it's called Castle Okno. It will come out later this year for free. We have another major development on the Source 2 development front. Project 17, the Source 2 community project to remake Half-Life 2 in the Source 2 engine, has put out an article detailing the recent development process, and it's a long one, so let's break it down. First, they talk about how they've structured their workflow now that they've joined forces with the Half-Life 2 Remade Assets team, how they've made further improvements to the assets already released, such as breaking them down into more pieces to give them more uses, and how they have further improved on the texture work. On that topic, they next go into their process of upscaling previously low-res textures and often making up new ones from the ground up. They have even managed to create their own water and liquid assets from scratch, which the Source 2 tools did not originally include. They then show off their process of procedurally generating materials. The example they showed off were the wooden roofing material. They say that although it won't look 100% like the original, this process allows them to make it look really close really quickly. Lastly, their level team shared their progress on the maps themselves. They say that all of the point insertion chapter and the beginning of Red Letter Day is not only fully walkable, but some parts are also art passed, and so they are now beginning to focus on the small details. This means, as they put it, that we will be seeing more progress updates very soon. Besides the level themselves, the team has also made great strides combining the maps into larger, continuous levels, which they say actually make the pacing feel much better than it did in the original. They say they can't quite combine everything as they want to keep performance in mind, after all this is for VR, but these are still big steps. Another way they're trying to improve performance is trying to put as much as possible into the 3D skybox rather than the actual environment, as the Source 2 engine is capable to making it very seamless. Lastly, now that the levels are nearing completion, they are beginning to look into animation and choreography. And they show off a GIF of Kleiner's teleporter in action. To end their post, the team says that they are looking for more people to aid in the project, from team members to Discord moderators. If you would be interested in helping them out or just want to keep up to date on their very soon coming updates, a link to their website and Twitter can be found in the description below. You guys know I like to do this. A new Half-Life 2 mod is in the works, and this time, it's actually something we have never seen before. The mod is called Arrowhead, and it takes place not during the events of Half-Life 2, not during the events of the 7-Hour War, but also not during the events of the first Half-Life game. It takes place between it all. Inspired by the Frank Darabont adaptation of the Mist movie that released at the end of 2007, Arrowhead lets you go on an adventure through a portal storm-ridden Earth corrupted with Zen flora and fauna. And a bunch of work on it has already been done, it's being in development for a little over 6 months now. In the article posted by one of the project leads, the tax collector man, there is much to show off. Like the newly created character models that are going to be used in the mod, they certainly have a much different style to them than what we usually see in Half-Life 2 mods. That's because rather than looking at the character models from each game, the developers have actually looked directly at the concept art itself to create these new models. The Subject Freeman series of fanart by Decepticoin has also been an inspiration for the artwork here. Other than that, we got some screenshots from an in-game level taking place in a national park, and we got a shot from a radio tower with someone standing in front of it. This is possibly Dale, a Black Mesa scientist that we're going to be meeting in the mod. There's also a 10-track concept soundtrack already available on this page for you to listen to, and a lot of interesting insight into this mod's development is written down here as well. I recommend you to go and read this all for yourself. Oh, and if you're someone who is looking for a team to join, or if you think you can help them out on this project as a web designer, concept artist, or level designer, be sure to hit them up. They've got a home, and they're looking for you. Contact details are also in the media article. And that media article can be found by clicking the link in the description below. Go check it out. A little mod called Half-Life Delta is in the news this week, and it hasn't really been on pretty much anyone's radar since at least 2018 it seems, as that is when the last media update was released. Did we ever cover it? I have no idea. The show did start in 2018, but remembering that far back is next to impossible for me. Anyway, the mod's developer XF Alien has released a brand new gameplay trailer over on ModDB, also stating that the mod will finally release in either June or July this year. The gameplay looks pretty promising, and it seems like more of your basic Half-Life combat, but with new weapon models and animations, lots of new textures and models, and more. Now, if you're wondering what Half-Life Delta is actually about, it's about a Black Mesa engineer called Nick Farrell, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now he has to fight through the hordes of aliens, zombies, and soldiers all contained inside of Black Mesa's Delta base, and even beyond. If that sounds like your cup of tea, or coffee if you're more of a coffee person, then go ahead and check the mod out for yourself. A link to the ModDB page and the trailer can be found down below. Go and check it out. After 4 years of development, the mod Thunder's Leaves has been released on ModDB. This electrified campaign takes place after the events of Half-Life 2 Episode 2 as humanity tries to reclaim the Earth from what's left of the Combine by turning their own weapons against them. Playing as Vincent, defending the suburb of Amberfield. Get it? You will fight the Combine with the power of lightning at your fingertips. Reviews have been pretty positive so far, so do check out the mod. You will need the Source 2013 single-player SDK and set it to upcoming beta in order for it to work, however. A link to the mod can be found in the description below. Insert segue here. Oh, wait, I was not supposed to read that. Anyway, our social media pages. You can find our Twitter, Facebook, and even a link to our Discord server in the description below. Like I said at the beginning, things that we may not have featured on this episode of All Things Lambda may have been featured on social media, so be sure to check that out. Of course, my social media details can be found in the description below as well, and the same counts for the rest of the crew as well. Be sure to check them out too. They deserve your attention just as much as I do. And with all that being said, I'm going to end episode 143 of All Things Lambda, and man, was this a big one. Don't be sad though, because we'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime though, don't forget to subscribe and to ring that bell icon so you'll never miss another episode. Salutations, and take care.